back to my channel. Last week I put a video out about the 6 books that I completely regret buying, my buyer's remorse video, and it did pretty well for my little channel, and so I decided to release another video about along the same lines, but this one is called the 6 books that I'm glad I bought. And there is an honorable mention because narrowing books down to just 6 isn't enough. I actually feel like even just in making this list, I'm betraying all of the other books that I have, but we're going to move forward anyway. Also, if introductions to another 1 or 2 videos look very, very similar to what's going on here with like what I'm wearing and the lighting and all of that, we listen and we do not judge. That's you. And okay, so let's just get into it. Okay, so the first book that I'm really glad that I bought is, okay, I guess let me talk about this book and why I'm glad I bought it. I sometimes think that I need a particular low level, not low level like as in like awful writing, but like low level as in like not tons of brain power required to read it. I need like that kind of a fantasy sometimes, and I've talked about this before. And this particular fantasy was just what I needed. I also love books that have a ton of other books to read along with it. And so like this one already had, like the series was already completed, I think, when I started reading it. Yeah, I feel like yes. I don't know the lore behind the book, but the fact remains that it was just what I needed at that time. Hang on, we're gonna adjust the angle. Okay, I feel like that's better. But nope, it's not better. Because then you had to see all of my sins. Okay, I think this works. Yeah, that's fine. Anyways, it was just what I needed, and that is why the first book I'm glad I bought is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This book, I will say, obviously book 2 was better. Maybe that's not obvious, but like for me, book 2 was better. The reason that I like this so much though was even though like I had to get over Farah, like I kind of hated her for like quite a long time, once I got to know her, things just changed. Things changed for the better, and maybe I was more invested in the love story that was building. And so the reason I'm glad that I bought this book is because it allowed me to read A Court of, what's it called? What's the green one called? The second one. It allowed me to, whatever, I'm gonna put it up. And so for that reason, I'm glad that I bought this. Okay, book 2 that I bought is along the same lines of just needing some escapism, and I was on Webtoons and my sister sent me this story, and then all of a sudden there were a bunch of volumes of the book being released, and so that book is Lore Olympus, and this is just volume 1. I've got, I think, 3 volumes here. I want to get the other ones, but I read a good chunk of it on Webtoons. I had a really good time, felt like I really related to Persephone in a lot of ways, and I think that reading books when we relate to people or characters is like extra special, and so it was a good time. The art is very, very beautiful, very pretty as well, and I really, really enjoyed reading it, and I feel like it was the perfect marrying of like whimsy with like concrete, realistic life, and so I'm glad I bought that one. Okay, the next book that I'm glad I bought is kind of going to go hand in hand with one of my honorable mentions, and it's just like the perfect little, I don't know, something happens when you get a bit of a realistic love story that just feels so relatable, and it's not relatable in the same way that like all the girlies related to Bella and Twilight. It's relatable in a way that's like real life is happening around me, and still I kind of like somebody, and what is that, like what's going on there. Did an awful job explaining that, but that's Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell, and my reading experience with this was just fantastic. I love all of Rainbow Rowell's books. I think the only one I haven't read is, there might be 2. I think it's Fangirl, which I never finished, and There's one about like emails and stuff being sent. I'm pretty sure that's Rainbow Rowell, but I never read that one either. But this is really good. And again, it's not super heady, but it's, I don't know, it keeps you very engaged. I really enjoyed it. I'm not selling this, but it's so good and you should definitely read it if you haven't. I think I read it, I think my sister like sent it to me virtually and I read it like that. Okay. The fourth book that I'm super glad I bought, nobody will be surprised by at all, because it is my favorite author. And reading this book, it's just another one of those examples. I like to relate to the people who I'm reading about. And this is a situation where I related so well to this little girl in some ways, not in all of the ways, but the storytelling that this author brings to their books is just, I don't really know. I won't even say anything about it because Miss Toni Morrison needs no introductions. But The Bluest Eye is the next book that I'm really glad that I bought, because I feel like reading this book both reminded me of what it was like to be a child trying to conceptualize all of these different things, all of these really grown-up things, and like taught me as an adult, like through that experience, like through seeing through the eyes of a child. I don't know, it was a hard reading experience, but a valuable one, I would say. Okay, fifth book I'm super glad I bought, and I'm really especially excited about this one because it's a first edition and I got it at Kaboom Books. Another of my favorite authors, Joan Didion's Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which is a collection of essays that she wrote. And there's just so much here. There's so much here. I can't talk about it in a way that's like, I would have to do a video. I guess yes, because I have to prep a little bit, but I'd have to do a video on this to fully get into what it is that makes this collection of essays and just Joan Didion as a person and as a writer so just so interesting and so important. I think that's the word I want to use, because her work is so important, and it helps you understand who you are as a person in a different way than the other books do, if that makes sense. And I feel like nonfiction situates itself in that way on purpose, or that's how it's situated rather. And I don't know, I think that this is required reading. Everybody should read this. Okay, the last official book on my list is maybe a little bit of a tough read just given the times, and I feel like that's all I can say without spoiling it. And so that's The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I promise you I know the author. For those of you who are in, I think it's service something, I always do this. You know, the book club that Dua Lipa does. She just recently, the last couple of days, uploaded a video of an interview that she did with Margaret Atwood on this book, and then on Margaret Atwood's, I think it's memoirs. But this was, I'm still reading this right now. This is this month's book club book. This is an incredible read. I've read it previously, but I don't know if I finished it, because I think that I was reading it around the same time the show came out, and then my sister started watching the show and I was like, okay. Well, at any rate, this book is, I don't know, the story feels very indicative of like what we're going through now. Like what we're going through now feels like the early days of this dystopian society, and that feels strange to say, but hey, it is what it is. Also, the writing is excellent. The story is just so well told, and so I would give it a try, especially if you enjoyed the series and just hadn't tried the book yet. Like I would give it a try. Okay, now for my honorable mentions. We've got, let's see. Nobody will be surprised to see On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous in here, because Ocean Vuong, literally I would read anything he ever wrote, and everything he writes is beautiful. And this book, this novel, helped me understand that a poet novelist is like chef's kiss, because the level and the handling of the language is delicate in a different way than a novelist, in my opinion. And I just found reading this book so inspiring for like me specifically because of, you know, just wanting to be a person who tells stories, but like knowing poetry better than anything else and being like, you know, well, like I write too lyrically to be able to tell a story that's more long form, you know, not just comprised within the lines of a poem. And I feel like Ocean Vuong was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna write the novel in the way that I want to write the novel, and the poetry that's, you know, that sits within this novel, like the novel is poetry. And I just feel like grateful to have read it, but also just grateful to be inspired by it. Second honorable mention, if we're thinking about love stories, Normal People, which is again one of those books that just showed me that, and I've talked about this before, so I won't go into it too much, but just like that love can look like a lot of different things. And, you know, it's not conventional. It's not the way that we like are told it's going to be. It's not just like black and white in that way. And it's messy and it's sometimes really ugly, but it's also like necessary in a lot of ways. Like it helps you grow and you get to understand yourself better by understanding how you show up in different spaces with different kinds of people in all kinds of relationships. And I feel like that's what Sally Rooney does so well, is like gives her characters a way to study themselves through their interpersonal relationships. And I think that that's just really cool. Okay, last honorable mention is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. And I read this, I think it was over the summer, and I enjoyed it so much. I'm still thinking about the characters, Sabine, and I mean, I'm not thinking about the other one quite as much. What was her name? Allison? You know, I don't remember. But it's not because Charlotte. I'm thinking, nope. No, Charlotte's Lottie. I loved her. I feel like I'm thinking about a girl whose name is Allison. If it's not, I'll let you know. But don't judge me. But the first two people, like the first two heavily covered characters are Sabine and Charlotte or Lottie. I really love them so much. I still think about them. And it was just such a good like fantasy moment. I don't know, I loved it. I don't know. Anyways, so those are all of the books that I'm super glad I bought. And they don't have much explanation to them just because these are books that don't really need much explanation or like can't exist in explanation because they're just, you don't have to qualify them. They just exist and they're beautiful and you should all read them. I'm going to pose for a thumbnail now. And maybe I can put up the honorable mentions. Maybe I can just pop them up here. It's literally this chaotic every single time I do this. Wait, we're almost there. Okay. Maybe we just do like this. That's kind of cute. Okay. Well, as you can see, I am in my pajamas because I'm ready for bed. And let me see. Maybe I record more video. Maybe I get some work done. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching as always. If you like this, please like it. If you want to hang out some more, please subscribe. Pay no attention to anything going on right there. That's my file cabinet. Yeah, thanks. I'll see you in the next one.